Welcome everybody to MogTalk, episode 269. I should have probably done a loot show. God damn. Anyways, welcome to MogTalk. If you guys are unfamiliar with MogTalk, it's a show based around the Final Fantasy 14 community discussing everything from Savage Raiding to Chocobo Racing. And today we are going to be talking about tanking because there's a lot of stuff to talk about with it. Before we get too far into it, and to give me a little bit of time to fix the cameras a little bit because I see a little small gap I want to fix, but I want the guest to introduce himself so you know who's on here. Likely you already know who they are, but just in case. Xeno, you want to go first? Tell everybody who you are.
I am the 3,769-year-old bald vampire. But I'm a cute vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, that's it. I stream from time to time.
That's it, man. I feel like that's a little light. I feel like that's just a little bit light.
I don't know, man. I don't know what else to add. I don't know, dude. I'm cringe. I don't know.
Cringe? Well, no, I don't know if I'd go there.
I got a nice shirt. Here, I'll add my shirt. Look at my
God damn.
Ooh. All right, there.
Where'd you get the shirt?
Oh, Spencer's.
I'm sure that better be safe. If I get anything, man.
Nah, I've worn this on shirt or on stream before, man.
Okay. So if they ban me, they better ban your ass.
Oh, yeah.
Technically,
Twitch is not consistent with their bans, because I can guarantee you that if I showed my asshole on stream, it would be more than a 3-day ban.
That's fair. All right, Sindalf. Tell everybody who you are.
Hey, I'm Sindalf. Well, obviously it's the tank show, so I play tank.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly do stuff like Dark Knight for World Prog and all that stuff. Stream occasionally, yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
I often disagree with Xeno when it comes to tanking stuff, so should be fun.
You know, it was funny. I said, hey, let's do this show. And they're like, man, so don't Sindalf and Xeno hate each other? Aren't they like in like some horrible beef or something? That doesn't make any sense. And I guess people thought because you guys had different opinions, maybe.
No, I love Sindalf.
It's just for
Sia
show
that I don't like.
It's, okay, all right, that's fair. All right, let's start the drama train. Let's do our react. Everybody clip that and we'll start reacting to what Xeno just said.
Man,
and just overanalyze it.
Look, man, I came on the stream to get away from reacting.
Okay. Jeez. All right, so you guys said you have different opinions. What are some conflicting opinions you guys have had before?
I think the biggest one that I remember is Xeno having the argument that Warrior should do as much damage as like a Gunbreaker or a Dark Knight, and I just completely disagree with that.
Okay, why?
It's too easy. It's too simple, too consistent.
The Dark Knight player is saying that another tank is easy?
I mean, Dark Knight's easy, don't get me wrong. Dark Knight should not do as much as it does. But Warrior is so like brain dead easy that it's there's a reason why it's like if it's your first time tanking, you want to pick up Dark Knight. I mean, not Dark Knight, Warrior, because anyone can pick it up out of the box and maximize it after like one pull.
Dark Knight though too.
It is if you can handle the APM for it in its first window. But Warrior, which is how simple it is, like, how does it make any sense that it could compete with something like Gunbreaker that actually requires some brain power?
You know why? Is because Square Enix is making all the tanks the same. And because all the tanks are the same, they should all do the same damage. And also, Square Enix's reasoning for why the tanks like deal different damage is beyond stupid. It's fucking beyond stupid, because they've said that the harder a tank is, the more damage it's supposed to do. They literally said that in the patch notes. That was one of their balance things, right? So my question is, before Paladin was changed, It was well, in my opinion, the hardest tank. So why the fuck did Paladin deal like 10% less damage than Dark Knight, which is, in my opinion, the easiest tank? That doesn't make any sense. So their reasoning doesn't even make sense to me. I don't even think that whoever wrote that actually knows what that means.
I think what they find to be difficult. I think the part of the reason is that Paladin has wings. So, you know, the whole wings ability that gives you passage of arms, that gives you like takes 85% damage. But at the same time, I think they think difficulty is just APM.
No, I think they think that too. The difficulty is APM. But then why did Paladin deal so much damage in Shadowbringers then? Because Paladin absolutely fucked in Shadowbringers. Like, it did as much damage as a Gunbreaker in some of the fights. So, like, their reasoning, their logic doesn't make any sense. Like, actually, I don't think that they have any fucking clue what it is that they're doing or what they're talking about, which is why the Paladin rework is the way it is. Because when they reworked Paladin, they made it to where you can kind of hit like any button and still do the same damage. Like, you got like the priority rotation, you got the skip atonement rotation, you got the holy. There's a fucking rotation where you just spam Holy Spirit, and it's not that much less damage than the other ones. So, like, I'm pretty sure that they didn't know how to fix it. All they wanted to do was make the burst better. So that way that you could kind of just do whatever and your damage is very similar. Although it doesn't make sense to me why Holy Spirit doesn't break your combo, but Atonement does. Like, you would think that Atonement wouldn't break your combo because Atonement is pretty much just Blood Spiller or like Fell Cleave. But for some reason it does. So this like Paladin rework, I actually like the rework, by the way. I thought previous Paladin, like, I wasn't a fan of previous Paladin. I know there's like excuse me. I know there's like sweaty Paladin mains out there that love the old Paladin and shit, but nah, fucking dude, it didn't fit the game anymore. Like, blame Square Enix. It didn't fit the game. They want everything to be in 1 and 2 minute windows. Well, mostly 2 minute windows. So it just didn't fit the fucking game. So now it plays much better into that, right? But they didn't change like a couple things that they didn't change. One of them was Atonement. They should have changed it to where it doesn't break your combo. I don't know what the fuck it does. I feel like Cover should have been... Dude, I can't believe they didn't fuck with Cover, dude. Like,
that's kind of sad, yeah.
Nobody knows how Cover works, though. Like, we've reached a point where I ask people, I'm like, how does Cover even work? How can we make use of this ability? And nobody has any clue because you never use it anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's also misleading because it's not actually a cover. It's a damage transfer, which is like different, which is also why the trait having, well, back in, what was it? Stormblood, when it had Rampart on it, was so fucking good. Because you could have like DPS take like tank busters and shit for you. And that was pretty cool. Yeah, they didn't fuck with that. They should have fucked with that. They didn't. I don't know why Shield Bash is still in the game. I feel like they should have made Clemency. They should have made Clemency like a targeted equilibrium. I feel like that would have been better. I feel like there's very rare times when you actually spam Clemency on different party members. I feel like it would just be better if it was just a targeted equilibrium. But I mean, I don't really play Paladin very much in Prague, but I mean, you know, when I played in the Party Finder and people are dying and shit, I maybe use it once. Like, you know, play safe, go for the clear, bitch mode, you know, it's fine. You know, it's fine.
You're parse though.
Yeah, like me.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, it like, okay, Clemency increases in value when AC whoa. Clemency increases in value when Abby's out of town. When Abby's not in town, the stocks on Clemency go way up, right? Now when she's in town, well, they go down. You don't use that fucking ability anymore.
You know, I do want to say this too. When you were talking about like some of the paladins were really upset about how it was, and there was one guy who's like, I don't want fucking Xeno and Sindalf to be on the show. They're just gonna say, you know, stupid takes about, you know, it, and they're not right because they don't have my opinion. on how Paladin should be. And so, is there really just a lot of people out there that are completely opposing what you guys are saying about Paladin right now?
Oh, I have no idea.
Probably, because I don't really play it that much, nor do I know how to play it. I look at what the rest of the community does with Paladin, like, and I've seen like charts, and they're like, "Oh, here's 3 different burst window rotations," and I'm just like, "Yeah, that's stupid. Just do this one thing where your burst window is exactly the same every 60 seconds. You're fine then.
Oh, true.
Like, it's probably okay."
Yeah.
Like, why put in all this extra galactic brain work into something? And as much as we may hate it, that's probably why SE designs classes the way they are, because they're supposed to be playable by someone who isn't very good at games, they're new to MMOs, and they still should be able to do a decent chunk of damage while not bringing down the whole team. That's probably why they removed Kaiten from Samurai as well. They're trying to, like, it's simplifying classes, and I mean, we all probably hate it because classes start losing personality and uniqueness, but it does make your party finder experience a little better.
Well, it's better for the general population of the game, too. Like, there's no way they're ever going to go back to Heaven's Ward shit. There's no fucking way. I mean, they even
said they won't.
Yeah. Like, me personally, I like that type of stuff. Like, I thought like the perfect balance was around Stormblood. But yeah, they're never gonna go back to that shit. Like, I don't mind if they dumb the jobs down, but I feel like that dumbing them down too much is like overkill, man. I mean, I'm not a fan of the 2-minute meta. You know, like everything's on fucking 2 minutes. I think they need to leave some room for optimization, at least for the jobs, you know, like, because if you think about it, if you compare the like how it is now versus how it was like back then, right? So not only are all of the jobs like significantly easier, but also the bosses, they have massive hitboxes. They automatically go to the center. They're literally removing all pieces of optimization from not only the jobs but also the fights themselves. So like, I don't think that having both of that is good. I think maybe one is fine, but not both. Because back in Heaven's Ward, you had small hitboxes with insane optimizations for jobs. So it was the complete opposite back then. But now, with the way like things are going and stuff, not only are the fights getting easier, well, maybe easier is the wrong way to say it. It's like they're taking responsibilities away, I guess. And they're not necessarily like upping the mechanics like too much. I mean, this current raid tier was pretty tough. But I mean, it wasn't harder than fucking like Midas or, you know, like fucking, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like Shiva was just as hard, I feel, but
Sindalf, what do you think? What do you think about that?
Well, the most interesting thing that you said to me was the like with the giant hitboxes, because I feel like that we have giant hitboxes, bosses go to the middle of the room, things like that, and that's actually removed a lot of just like, I would call it like tank sense that a player needs to have in order to actually perform their class correctly.
Yeah.
And classes are kind of like Paladin's range combo kit outside of a few situations doesn't really mesh well with the giant hitbox. And we never move a boss around anymore. Like, ask anyone who started in like Shadowbringers, pretty much none of them have ever had to move a boss from point A to point B. It just doesn't happen. That's never a thing that you do. Because Square Enix kind of just made it to be like, yeah, bosses go to the middle of the room and you do nothing. So positioning no longer matters. You might move a boss once or twice in an expansion.
Well, I mean, like, I guess, was the Void Walker from Eden? Is that the right one that you had to move around a lot, or am I imagining that?
You didn't have to move it. You didn't have to. That was just a strat that people came up with. for like handling the flares that would go off to the edge. You didn't have to do that, but it does make it a little easier. So that is one place. And the skill for that fight is mainly comes near the end, where the problem that you typically have is keeping the boss still, because the final mechanic is infinitely easier to if you disconnect from the boss. But if you do that, the boss is going to follow you, and then that makes the next mechanic harder for everybody else. And that only applies to mainly the main tank for the most part. So that is actually a good case of that.
Yeah, boss positioning is like, well, it used to be super important, but that was like what I was saying earlier. Like they just keep taking away responsibilities from, from tanks. So like whenever the boss goes to the middle, it's like, all right, well, okay, I guess it's there. I mean, because it would like really show in the party finder, like when like a good tank, like you don't even really have to stagger step anymore. Like I remember when stagger stepping bosses was everything, because it would like fuck over your melee if you move the boss too quickly, because bosses typically move way faster than you unless you pop sprint. So if you didn't stagger step properly, dude, your melee would get all shitty. It would just really show the difference between like a good tank and like a bad tank by boss positioning. But they've like started to take all that away, so it's like, all right, so now that responsibility is gone. Now the rotations are easier. Like fuck, man, like there's nothing left to optimize, you know.
So you guys would say that the current state of tanking is just is it in a bad place then, or is it fine? You just like, this is probably just what the game's going to turn into.
So whenever I look at Final Fantasy, I always look at it from two mindsets. I look at it from my own personal mindset, and I look at it for, okay, what is good for the game? All right, so what is good for the game? Are these giant hitboxes and them doing everything good for the game? I mean, yeah, because they want to make money, right? They want to give more players to play. It's easier. More players are going to play something that's easy. You know, there's going to be more players to play because it's easy than players that quit because they get bored. You know, like a player like me or something, I'm never going to quit this game. Like, I love this game. I'm mind controlled by this game. Like, I'm never going to stop. So you could probably hit like one or two buttons and I would probably still play this piece of shit. Okay. Because it's just what it is. But me personally, I don't like the direction they're going. Like, something needs to give. They either need to, like, you can't make things too easy on too many different like levels, right? So like you have like the actual job. Okay, well, if you're going to make that easy, then leave the boss positioning and the hitbox is a little smaller, so that there's optimization when it comes to uptime, boss positioning. You have to turn it right. You know what I'm saying? Like if you look at a fight like Kefka, that fight's awesome. You have to move Kefka all over the fucking place. It's badass. It's one of the coolest fights, man. You know? Well, at least I think so personally. And I like that. That's why I would say Stormblood was like almost the perfect like middle ground kind of. But so what they're doing now, like I don't like personally, because they're not only making the encounters they're taking away responsibilities, but on top of that, they're also making the rotations and shit easier. And there's a difference between like easy and quality of life. Like quality of, like if you give something quality of life, like okay, I'll give you an example. Like having inner release not consume an inner chaos stack. Okay, that's quality of life. That's how it should be. You should not, inner chaos should not take a stack of inner release. Okay, so that doesn't make the job easy. That just makes the job better because it's quality of life. But something that is too easy is like, it's like when it plays itself for you, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So you can't have both that and the encounters being easier. So like, I think personally, I don't like it, but I think it's good for the game, I guess. Sorry, I kind of ranted there.
No, it's good. No. Is it enough?
I think that, I mean, I generally agree with you for the most part, although I do think that making some of this stuff easier and less complex is going to backfire on them eventually. Because I've even heard like of more casual players that I speak to who start around like Shadowbringers and Walker Time, who are already starting to get a little bored because they're like not being challenged. They like the rest of us, we who started in ARR, we went through Heaven's Ward. We had that big like challenge where a bunch of us got to like get better and just keep going through things. And then they kind of like we had that. Other players haven't been able to experience that yet. So I think that's just like a general gameplay thing as well. But with them removing like responsibilities, I think it's like when I start thinking about it, when it comes to responsibilities, I feel as if at the moment your responsibility is almost done completely by the way the community comes up with the strategy, because they're kind of just like vomiting debuffs or like randomized debuffs at you at some point, and everybody's a candidate at some point to some degree. And this makes it so that no matter what job you play, you generally know what you're going to have to do in the raid. Whether it's tank, whether it's healer, DPS, you kind of know what you're going to have to do, and you just end up doing it. And because the classes are so simple, you can really go with their whole philosophy of being able to swap between things whenever you want, and then pick up a class and then just clear on it. Like, I've cleared some Savage raids, at least, on classes. I have no idea what I'm doing because of that.
Yo, same.
Because you can just keep pressing like the same button over and over. It's kind of sad to see. But I think having something like that is a little healthy to some degree. But I do think, though, we need more harder content. Though I will also say that I think some of the mechanics in this game that they are releasing now are more difficult than they were in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's not something a lot of people do agree with. Some of them, not all of them.
I mean, I wish, like, so like you mentioned, it's like some of your casual friends were already getting bored and shit. Well, that might be fixed by having, remember that piece of content that came out that everybody was fucking super hyped for and it died on like the first day that it came out? Oh yeah, Criterion Dungeons. Yeah, remember those? Yeah, so if they came out with those, but actually like made the rewards decent, I feel like it would give those players something else to do. Like basically Criterion is kind of like a mid-tier, I guess, piece of content. It's like, it's like less of, well, I guess in a way it's like less of a commitment than Savage because you only need 4 players versus 8. I mean, it's pretty quick. You get like reses and shit, so it's pretty forgiving. I'm not talking about the Savage version. I'm just talking about the normal version. And I think that if they actually, dude, like the fucking rewards, man, holy shit. Some people don't even know that like that's in the game, man.
Yeah, it happened and it was gone like immediately.
So fucking bad.
You should see the Savage rewards if you haven't yet. You get a book that buys you like 1 materia.
Yeah.
It's.
I'd say
Go ahead.
I think they should have some some sort of at least like glamour or some other kind of reward. Because battle rewards, I don't see them doing it. The way this game's gear system works, like they're just not going to give out battle rewards for that stuff. Anything meaningful.
The gear in this game, I think that's a whole other show.
I mean, there's not really gearing in the game, right? I mean, it's just you could call it gearing, I guess, but it doesn't feel like it. There's no effort. You don't have to try.
I could literally talk about gearing for like 5 hours, and I would not. Well, I might repeat myself, maybe once. Okay. I have a lot of issues with gearing in this game.
We could do it next month. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Invite me to the gearing show. Yeah. Okay. So the Criterion rewards, they should have been one. It should have been like the 24-man, right? Except for raid equivalent. Oh, also the 24-man should be fucking raid equivalent too. For some reason, people are okay with it being fucking lower. They're fucking dumb. No, it should be raid equivalent. This patch came out 4 months after the raid tier. There's no reason it shouldn't be raid equivalent. Anyway, the Criterion should have been one weekly piece of that gear that drops from the bosses, and it should give you a twine or an oil. Because the point of that shit is to catch you up. Like, that's the point of that shit. Because it comes out after the raid tier. So it's to try to help people. But it ain't helping people. You're going to do that for one fucking materia? What the fuck were they thinking, man? Are you kidding me? Like, dude.
Yep.
It's such a sad thing too, because they're going to look at the numbers and they're going to be like, well, no one's doing this, so we're going to stop making the content, which actually Criterion Dungeon is really awesome. I really enjoyed it.
It is.
I thought it was awesome. So
It's
it's
really good.
Fucking nobody's doing.
They broke a lot of what they do in like Shadowbringers and Endwalker. And they brought it back to like just making something that was fun and had like interesting mechanics. Like Criterion throws a bunch of mechanics at you where you actually have to move the boss around. You have to disconnect a little bit to make some things easier. You have to do a bit of thinking. It's fun. Like it's just a fun dungeon. But that's not something that they do in their typical raids, I feel like, anymore. Like they're very uniform what they do now.
Yeah.
Outside of Ultimate, that is.
Wow.
Ultimate kind of breaks rules as well from time to time.
Yeah.
But I will say on the reward, on the gearing thing, I mean, I agree that like twines could be there, like twines and oils. Those could all be there from as a reward. I think those should be a savage reward, not a normal mode reward. But I do not think the 24-man should give you gear equivalent. Why? I think that is absurd because it's simple. Why would it give you the same reward?
You only get one a week. Savage? You only get one a week.
Yeah.
Why should it give you the same as Savage then?
Okay, here's the thing. You can already get raid equivalent gear from the 24-man. You already get it in the form of a twine or an oil. So it's already there. But
you have to
pieces but the pieces themselves should be raid equivalent because it would accomplish two things at once. One, it would be horizontal progression for people that are already BIS. It would give you a reason to do it. And two, it would help people that need the gear, that are coming late to the game. Maybe they played later. It would help them more. So it would not only help the new players, but it would also help the players that are already playing because they could go in there and if they want to be sweaty and min-max even more, if they want to trade out their fucking 89 crit for 120, then they can do that.
I mean, I agree with Xeno 100% here. So
I don't agree with that. Although I'll say, like, if you say that people won't do certain kind of content because, like, Criterion, because the rewards are bad, but then why would you do Savage if you can just get it from the 24-man?
Well, you only get one piece a week.
That's more than you get from Savage.
I mean, okay,
unless you're in a pre-mate.
No,
that's true.
Yeah,
yeah, but you get a book though.
I mean
I can't read, so I don't know.
The
like
gear
4 weeks later.
The gear in this
No,
expansion.
you know what? No, wait a minute. Hold on. No, you just contradicted yourself. No, that right there is a reason to do the 24-man because you never get any gear from Savage. So you need that gear for the 24-man.
I would say join a static then.
I can't find 7 friends, man. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
If you can't make 7 friends, I would argue why are you playing an MMO, and to reevaluate your social situation.
Look, man, don't attack me like that, dude. I feel really offended at this point, Sindalf. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter what. The gear's going to last like another 3 months, right? 3-4 months. If you have another way to do it, makes it slightly more exciting. I mean, in 3 or 4 months, they just kill the gear. It doesn't even matter anymore. So, like, why not have another way to,
Yeah, like, I think Man, you might as well just have made this the tank gear show.
Yeah, well, this isn't tank gear show. This is like gear show at this point. We're on like a pretty big raid. So. But you know what? We could talk about how the gear for tanks look and the glamour for tanks if they're doing a good job artistically, right? And
it looks okay in the 24. I mean, I'm not gonna wear it, but it looks okay. It's all right. Did you guys like the PvP glamour? I thought it looked okay too.
Yeah.
I don't know what it looks like. I just wear the 2B outfit.
No. Okay.
Oh yeah. No, and that makes sense. They kind of hit their peak there. I don't think they're really gonna pass that for a while. They tried a little bit with Violent Sanctuary, but I don't know how much better they're gonna get.
All right, so okay.
How do we recover from a gear
talk about gear now,
takes?
dude? Okay, all right. So anyway, okay, the paladin rework. Okay. All right. I mean, I got a lot to say, but I'm just gonna say right now that I like it. I think it's better than what it was. I understand, sweaty paladin mains probably don't like it as much, but it's definitely better for the game. It fits the meta better. There are some things I don't like about it, though. I mentioned some stuff earlier, like cover and shield bash and shit. Atonement should not break your combo. I feel like Goring Blade is an afterthought at this point. I feel like they just didn't want to get rid of it. So they were just like, yeah, fuck it, just whatever, just put it on there, whatever.
Very
like,
lazy.
Yeah, that's like so I have a pet peeve, and it's whenever they put an ability on a job that is purely there for damage and no other purpose. There's no dot, there's no upkeep on it. It's literally just there, and you only hit it once a minute. So you have this fucking spot on your hotbar that on Paladin is already cluttered. Your hotbar is already cluttered on Paladin anyway, and they added an ability, Bulwark, so now it's even more cluttered. And on top of that, and on top of all that clutter, you have this ability that you only hit once a minute, and all it does is a shitty 700 potency. Blasting Zone does more damage than that, and it's half the fucking cooldown, and it's off GCD. So why the fuck is Goring Blade even in the game? They should have just made Wreck a GCD and fucking call it a day, because Goring Blade is fucking useless. And dude, when I was first trying to play this, I forgot to hit that so many times in my fight or flight. I was just like, oh, fuck, I forgot to hit this ability. I just really don't like that ability now. And I feel like that they just tried to keep it in the game just to keep it in the game. I don't think it serves a purpose. I really don't.
Sindalf, do you kind of agree with all that?
I mean, yeah. I also don't like high damaging abilities like that on a tank, at least. That has no interaction with anything. It's just meant to be something you press in your fight or flight.
Yeah, I don't like abilities like that.
If I would more agree with having it if we actually had like mini DPS checks in the game where we could make some decision making that said, here's a spot where like we have to break a healer out of a jail, for example. Like, because that's like the one that most people know is like when a healer gets in a jail in Titan, in Uwu. Back in the day, you actually had to focus that down a little bit. Now it just dies immediately. But if we had more like mini checks like that around, I would be a little more okay with having this. But within like their current mechanic and raid design, it's just damage. It's just there. It's just kind of pointless and boring. It's not interesting. All it serves to do is make you salty when it doesn't direct hit crit.
Yep.
It's not. That is something I really do not like, and that's a problem not just across tanks, but across every job for the most part. And I really think they need to step away from that because it makes classes very boring.
I mean,
I will
go ahead.
Go on. No, go on.
No, I was just gonna say like that kind of. I was going to go in direction of like, do you think all the jobs are kind of going to start going in a situation to where we just don't put any kind of variability in the different roles and or different jobs and everything else, and it's just like press button, no dot, press button here, and just don't think anymore. You have like 5 major buttons that you hit, and then every once in a while you press just another button. That's kind of how tanks. Is that how tanks feel right now? Or am I just saying shit?
I think it's how a lot of classes feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
But I do think they will eventually go away from it.
Do you?
They'll eventually go back, like we'll come full circle, and they'll go back to the world of more complicated classes with more interactions, because that's how you keep them interesting. They need to do something. They need to have some sort of decision making.
I think that's copium, but I want to believe.
It might be copium.
I just want you to know that I want to believe. I want to.
I mean, I know it's copium.
We all want to believe, right? I mean, that's just the thing is, I do think there is maybe a chance that will happen is that they'll kind of reduce it to so simple. At some point, they're like, well, we're bored. We need to do something to make it more interesting on the developer side even, right? And then they'll start adding in a couple of different things. I mean, how do you guys feel about this goes into healers a bit, but also job design and kind of how the developers are thinking when they're making new jobs and everything. Do you feel like Sage was a complicated. I don't feel like it is now. After I've played it, it was complicated because I couldn't pronounce any of the words and none of it made sense to me. But how do you feel about Sage's job design when they came out with Endwalker?
Dude, I fucking love Sage. I love Sage. I think it's awesome. It's my favorite healer. I
love it
Sage,
too.
man.
I mean, I play it right now. That's what I play.
It's so good, dude.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Sage as a class feels very good, and that was very surprised and impressed because I was like, there's no way they're gonna add another shield healer, and it somehow exists within the way this game works with healing. Because of how like simple healing can be and how much you try to not heal and then have it also be fun at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, part of that is they made it fun through their presentation of it, but they actually made it feel good to play. And I was just like, dang, they actually did it.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's awesome because like as a shield healer, you have like also a lot of like pure healing output too. So like on White Mage, because I don't play the other two healers because I don't like single targeting cards and I don't like fucking around with the fairy. So I play White Mage and Sage when I heal. And on White Mage, there's situations where there's like no mitt, right? Because the only thing you have is like wings and the other healer's like dead or something. I don't know. But on Sage, I like never feel that way. Now keep in mind, okay, I'm a casual healer. All right. I'm a casual healer. All right. I'm not my healing is not, you know.
Do you GCD shield?
I mean, no.
I do too.
I said I was a casual healer, not an embarrassment. Like, what the fuck?
I mean, I do that.
I'm an
not
embarrassment
gonna-
then. Yeah.
Dude, as long as you get the clear, it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, you know, but I got a 97.
I got like a
on-
13. That's
on
like my.
E2. Or wait, no, we're not even in that fucking expansion.
Wait a minute,
anymore.
we can't talk about
On-
this stuff. That stuff doesn't even exist, anyways.
Yeah.
Maybe for like 3 days at the start of the patch.
Yeah.
You can
So
get
I really
100
like
if you
Sage.
clear it first, Sindalf.
That is true. That's what I care about. Get that historical 100.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, the main reason I was bringing that up is because I felt like a lot of people do believe at least Sage was well designed. And so they do have the ability to change jobs or put them in a direction for where we would feel they're well designed. And so I guess with Paladin, they kind of just threw something together to make it work for the rest of the expansion, but it doesn't feel like, would you say that Paladin is now well designed? I would think not, right?
I think it depends on your definition of well designed. If by well designed you mean
Sage.
is it well, okay, is it like intricate and is it like interesting? I would probably say no. But if well designed, if you mean like anybody can play it, then yeah.
functional.
Because Paladin now you can't really fuck up. I mean, you can, but it's a lot less harder to fuck up now. At least in my opinion, because Holy Spirit by itself does so much damage now, and I feel like they did that on purpose, so that if you're ever trying to play safe and you peel off the boss, you can just Holy Spirit on Paladin, and it's only 30 potency less than an Atonement. So it's not really that much of a damage loss versus a GCD. And Holy Spirit also doesn't break your combo. So let's say you go like 1-2 and then, you know, is like an average player or a new player. You're like, oh no, there's something going on. I'm going to run away, you know, just for safety. You can always cast a Holy Spirit and it's not going to break your combo. And it's not really going to be, I mean, it's yeah, sure. It's a damage loss, it's 30 potency, but in comparison to completely missing a GCD or I don't know, like restarting your combo, it's not really a damage loss. So, you know, if they made Atonement not break your combo, yo, you could do like 1 Holy Spirit, Atonement 2, Atonement 3. You could just use like random abilities and it would probably work out. So like going back to what I said earlier, I feel like that they didn't exactly know how they wanted to change it. So they just made everything work almost. They're just like, fuck it. People are probably going to outsmart us again anyway because the community's fucking better at this game than we are. So fuck it. We're going to make no options wrong, you know? Obviously, yeah, you could do like, you'll start your Confiteor combo, then do, a Royal Authority and break it or whatever. That's a fuck up. But I mean, there's not as many fuck ups on Paladin as there used to be. So as far as design wise go, I think they did a good job. But I never loved Paladin before. So I think that if you loved previous Paladin, you might not like it as much now. But if you didn't like it, you probably like it more now, is what I would say.
It feels simple. It feels like I really haven't done too much with it. I just tried to mess around with the rotation, everything, and try to understand kind of what they were doing with it. And I'll be honest, the old Paladin, I just play Paladin a lot. I just played it because I played it. I felt like it hurt a lot to mess up. Like it didn't feel good at all. And I feel like that's not even in the equation anymore. You're just like, whatever. Just press my buttons and making it through today, dude. Like, it doesn't even feel like there's any level of concern about how bad you're going to mess up your combo.
So, I see, like, a few things with that. Is one, with, like, Paladin, for example, at least when I'm comparing, like, what tank I'm going to take or what job even, one of the first things I look at is beyond, like, how much damage does it do and how much utility does it do. It is, how strict is it, and what are my expected losses in certain situations? So Paladin, we already know it doesn't do as much damage, at least previously, as like all the other tanks. It was a little lower. It was like between Gunbreaker and Warrior. It was in that area. But if you didn't know how to play it and you picked like the wrong fight or flight rotation or anything like that, it just felt bad. But that is something that before we were kind of advocating for in a way, was some decision making. You had that in the class, but there were expected losses that you would probably have to factor in, because at least within a prog scenario, or unless you're actually playing, like thinking about the class often, you're going to lose damage somewhere. Likewise, you'd play something like Dark Knight, where when you have to start factoring in losses, it's either downtime, which is going to be maybe a GCD or two. It's not going to be a big deal. Or you just shift something out of your window, of like your burst window, which isn't a huge deal either. I mean, it doesn't feel great, but it's not a big deal. Mm-hmm. Whereas Paladin, because like you had fight or flight, which was on a timer, that downtime really was painful. That is losses you cannot gain back, that other classes could shift to other places. Requiem only affecting like your Holy Spirit and magic combo, so it doesn't synergize well with fight or flight. That offered some decision making, but in the wrong situation, like you're just like using a Holy Spirit in the middle of your fight or flight combo feels terrible.
Yeah.
But then, as a counterpoint to that, Paladin did have going for it. As you said, Xeno, like dealing with downtime. I find Paladin to be one of the most fun classes when you're actually trying to play safe. If you're actually trying to play safe and you're running around like a boss, you have to disconnect a bunch for whatever reason, especially with like week 1 janky strats that are often terrible. Mm-hmm. You might have to do that a bunch. In Paladin, if you somehow line up your Holy Spirit and like Confiteor combo in the middle of that, you might actually end up eventually being above other tanks.
Yeah.
Because you played well around where you would end up having losses. So like this trade-off between the tanks, Paladin still had that, but the game's just like not designed around making that work. Like working within those like systems, because everything tries to be giant hitbox, full uptime, 2-minute burst windows. Like
the ranged attacks lost a lot of value with their new like hitbox design and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But talking about defensively, where do you think all these different tanks stand? Is Paladin's in a good spot?
I think Paladin's in an amazing spot defensively. Well, okay, maybe not amazing, but it's in a much better than what it was. Like Hollow Ground still sucks ass, but
the delay.
It's like
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
7 minutes is way too fucking long, man. Like, who the fuck gives a shit that you don't take any damage? Like, what? Like, just fucking
Neither
heal
does
yourself,
Gunbreaker.
forehead. You're a tank and Endwalker. Just heal yourself.
Gunbreaker
what the
doesn't take damage. Warrior can heal themselves up to full. Dark Knight most of the time can, but then people forget that it has a situation where you'll miss one GCD under it, and then you'll just kill yourself.
Yo,
But I mean, still.
I died to Living Dead in DSR, like it was like last week or something, man. Oh my god.
When I die to that, my healers yell at me. They're like, "Why didn't you say you need a heal?" I'm like, "I always need a heal. All 4 hits are not consistent unless I hold."
I don't even know why that's on Living Dead anymore. Like, just fucking take it off, man. It's so stupid. Like, just take it off already.
Thematic.
It only happens like, maybe 1 out of, I don't know, 50 times, maybe even more, maybe like 1 out of 100. Just take it off, man. Just you go up to full, just whatever. Like, I don't know, but yeah, like Paladin defensively is really good. They got a lot better with Sheltron being damage prevention instead of block. It is kind of weird though that they were like, yeah, we're gonna remove blocking, and then they give you a blocking cooldown.
yeah, they just move
like,
it.
all right, okay. I mean, I guess. But I mean,
being able to both stack all of your abilities like Rampart, Sentinel, then Sheltron, so it's like 20 plus 50 plus 30. None of this is additive, by the way. It's all multiplicative.
yeah.
But I don't know the math because I'm dumb. And then adding like actually block on top of that, and anything else someone else gives you, like Paladin can kitchen sink really hard.
Yeah.
And that is kind of how the game has worked for a long time, where spreading out cooldowns, what's that? We don't have to do that. Just press all the buttons.
Yep.
So in that regard, it's great. Also, its AoE mitt has always been like strong, and it's even better now. Like having
Veil's so
Veil?
much better now. It's really good.
Yeah, and the fact that it gives like it's a shield, whereas your co-tank, which probably isn't a warrior in a lot of cases,
Sad
like
times.
percentage mitigation is like percentage mitigation from like Dark Knight and Gunbreaker. I've found, I think works better if you can cover multiple abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So something like Akmorns that hit like 4 or 5 times, or just a mechanic that hits multiple times over like 15 seconds. Those are great. But if you're about to hit like either a strong one hit ability, like a big raid wide, or if it is a multi-hit and you hit it on like the second or third hit, pop something like DV, which will heal the party, and then put a shield on them. Beautiful. And they have Passage of Arms on top of it, which is something none of the other tanks have. And that just having a little bit of something extra that also isn't 10%, it's 15%. Well, you take 85% of the damage. Math's a little different in that one. If you have something that no other tank has, then they cannot balance the game around that having to be there. So you always have something extra.
Mm-hmm.
And you can pretty much either say, we will survive, or you have to put in less thought into your mitigation rotation for the party, especially in like a prog scenario. Because usually players do use their mitigation, but they might over-mit one ability by like 1 or 2 pieces of mit. And then having to ask someone to switch that a few hours into prog can really hinder you due to muscle memory. But if you have a Paladin, you just pop that Passage of Arms button, problem solved. Now nobody has to think.
Yeah. I think. So they added a hot to Shake, which I think is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So that makes Shake even better, and they made Shake 30 seconds, which is crazy. Like, Shake is insane now. Like the veil change applying to the Paladin can actually be helpful sometimes. Like, so there's a lot of cases where there's a tank buster into like raid AoE, and Shake and I mean, you could do this with the others as well, but you can use Shake and Veil to like top up the tank just a little bit, and then they'll have a shield for the tank buster, and then the party will have the shield for the raid AoE. So you can kind of double dip there a little bit.
Yeah.
So like the fact that Veil is now, I mean, I don't know why it took them so long to change Veil, because Veil should have always well, I guess maybe not at Heaven's Ward, because Veil was like the first of its kind. But man, like I don't know why it took them so long to change, but Veil should have always been instant, and it should have applied to the Paladin itself. The fact that it didn't is just fucking weird.
But Xeno, I can't press it 30 seconds early anymore.
I mean, and someone actually
How can you
fucking
handle
said
it?
that to me.
Hey, before you pull, right? You know these things. Yeah.
Somebody actually said Veil was worse because you can't pre-pull it anymore. That's the reason why Veil is worse. Just ignore all of these other positive changes. It's worse because you can't pre-pull it anymore.
Look, I'll play devil's advocate for a moment, and I would agree with them if that actually had usage. It doesn't. Nobody has ever really had to do that except for maybe like one or two really niche spots.
Yeah.
At best, no one ever does that.
Everyone.
If we actually could do that and it was useful, or there was some interaction, like maybe it got stronger over time, the wait longer it took you to like pop, then yeah, that'd be cool. But
yeah,
no.
It's hilarious because everyone does so much to mitigate that first AoE. Half of that shit could be completely cut out and doesn't matter because everybody's just popping it because they can pop it at the beginning. So yeah, taking shit away from the beginning doesn't matter at all. Man.
Okay, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Now, the 14 community has referred to New Paladin as Gunbreaker. They say it plays just like Gunbreaker. Okay, now I have not
What?
I have not taken a deep dive into the depths of that amount of stupidity yet. Can anyone tell me why the New Paladin plays like Gunbreaker?
Sindalf, I'll let you answer that.
I can't because that makes no sense. But this is just, I'm sure you remember this, Xena. Like you hit a certain point and everyone's just like, oh, this class is just like Warrior. So if you're a boomer, you refer to a class as this class is just Warrior. And then when you become a zoomer, you're just like, oh, this class is just Dark Knight. And I don't know who the hell's saying Gunbreaker.
Yeah, because like day one, people were saying, yeah, New Paladin is just like Gunbreaker 2.0. There's maybe like one similarity, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like saying, oh, okay, Warrior's like Gunbreaker because it has a tank stance and tank mastery. And that's it. And that's why they're the same.
Aren't all tanks the same? Like,
I mean, yeah, fuck it. All tanks are the same.
It doesn't matter.
Man, hold on. I saw this funny meme. It was like the icon of defiance and then the icon of you know, the defiance off, and it was compliance. And the grit, the icon off was quit. Royal Guard was shit. Fuck, man. It was like, it was Royal Disregard. And then Shield Oath was fuck. What was, damn it, I can't remember Shield Oath.
Chat remembers.
Man, okay,
sure.
sorry. I'm making this really bad, but it was really funny. I know there's a meme out there and it's really funny, and I'm sorry I couldn't remember all of it, but
it's okay. Someone in chat, go find it and post it, and I'm sure you won't get
really
insta
funny.
banned. You probably.
Oh yeah, it was called Iron Will and Iron Won't.
So
yeah, that's so good. Yeah, that's what it was, dude. Yeah.
By the way, why did they trim all that by a second? Was there something that I missed?
I don't know, but I don't like it. I don't like that change. Nah, it fucks with me, because now you can't easily triple weave it. So you used to be able. Okay, so turning off your stance was literally nothing. It cost nothing. You could actually do it at the same time as you were hitting a GCD or an off GCD. But now you can't do that. So if you're like trying to completely optimize your off GCDs, like down to like the fucking like quarter of a second or whatever, it's really annoying. It's really obnoxious because now it actually it's like a thing now. It's kind of hard to explain. Now, okay, I'll say this. You know, I mean, Clippy, right? Know Clippy. All right, okay. And Alex. Okay, well, if you got them over for dinner, whatever, then it's not a problem. It's not really a problem, but if you don't, then it is a problem. And I got to tell you today, all right, I want to give a shout out to the cousins because the 14 community has rejoiced upon their return. There was a parade. The streets were just lit up with praises, and Eorzea was full of happiness and gratitude for the return of the cousins, because today is a glorious day. I want January 14th. This is a special day. This is the cousin day. It's a new holiday in Eorzea because this is the day the cousins return after their long stay, their long, traveling adventures in the circus. They're now back. So today is a good day.
As someone without any cousins, I never really had any issue at all, and I just heard all the noise, and for some reason I was just like, that's kind of funny to me, because I do Party Finder a lot, and I did notice a little bit of a difference in Party Finder. Yeah, just a little bit.
People losing their raid groups.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
people losing the raid groups because
the horse wasn't there.
Got the cousin.
Yeah, cousin's not there to support him. Yeah, I get it. Jeez, man.
I mean, times are different, man. Times are different now, man.
It is. It's true. It's true.
I'm gonna admit to something. I didn't know you could triple weave tank stance until after DSR.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, I always treated it like an off GCD, and I always had it fill a spot. So this change means nothing to me. I've been doing it for years.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like you could, like
it would basically queue it off.
Yeah. Right? It wasn't even part of like the queuing system. It's really hard to explain. It's more of like a feeling. It's kind of like a server tick. I don't know, you fucking play the game long enough and you just start to get it. But when you just click it off, it doesn't actually queue up with anything. It happens instantly, and it just happens over everything else. Or at least that's how I did it for years. So this change fucks me. I have to plan for an off GCD usage now.
Wait a minute. So the recast time has been reduced from 3 to 2 seconds, and it's causing problems with. I'm stupid, guys.
Problems with what exactly? Are you
saying? Like, is it making it worse because you have to do like you say you have to plan for an OGCD for it? Man, I don't even.
You will clip at the end.
Yeah.
If you try to, like, before, you could do 2 off GCDs, then you could press tank stance off. And it would just naturally fall off.
Okay, I think
now it like takes up like a really small spot, and you'll notice you'll clip your GCD.
Okay.
So if you're in like a really heavy window, if you're playing a class like Dark Knight in your burst window and you got a tank swap, you're kind of screwed. If you're like actually trying to optimize anyway.
You guys turn off your tank stance?
Yes. I don't shirk as much as I used to.
Yeah, dude. Man. Like, when you got a big ass burst window coming up, dude, you ain't got time for shirk. That's for the birds. Just turn that tank stance off, man.
All right.
As long as the other tank's got it on.
Man.
Got it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Here. Let me send you something, Frosty.
Dude, don't send me like something like a dick pic or something, man.
I would not send you that
All right.
unless it's like this. I'm gonna post this and I'm gonna go get banned from your chat now for posting a link. Oh, I didn't get banned. Holy crap.
Oh, you're VIP.
Oh yeah.
This is kind
Yeah,
of what
that's a good
tanking's like
picture.
now.
Yeah.
Every 2 minutes you have a burst window, and then you have to
Yeah.
also press all your cooldowns and raid-wide mitigation. And if you're a
Oh.
class like Dark Knight,
Yeah.
you can't fit it. Same thing with Gunbreaker.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
It just, you have to, like, that is where some skill comes in nowadays, where you actually have to have the foresight to press your stuff early before the cast bar even starts.
Right.
Although certain abilities like Heart of Corundum and like Sheltron and Nascent Flash, like those, and Bloodwetting, those give you benefits for the first 4 seconds, so they actually encourage you to wait to the last second.
Yeah,
But-
it doesn't make sense. Like that's another thing about tanks that is annoying. Okay, now I enjoy hitting off GCDs, but I do think that there comes a certain point in time where there is way too fucking many. And right now, Dark Knight has way too fucking many. You should not have to hit Salted Earth twice on top, 2 plunges on top of 2 Shadowbringer charges. Are you fucking kidding me, man? That is way too many off GCDs, especially during windows where there's like, they always put a tank buster or a raid white or something during that time. Like, there's no reason you should have to hit Salted Earth twice, man. That is so stupid. And the same thing with a gap closer, the same thing with Shadowbringer. Like, I like GCDs, or sorry, off GCDs. I actually think Gunbreaker has around the amount of off GCDs that I would want on a job. I think Warrior has too few, Paladin has too few, Dark Knight has too many, and Gunbreaker has around what I think that, I guess, an average job should have. But I also don't like useless off GCDs. Like, I think hitting Salt and Darkness is fucking stupid. I think tank gap closers having potency is dumb. I wish the gap closers were like Thunderclap, because I think Thunderclap is like the best fucking gap closer in the game. I don't necessarily like Bowshock. I think that's not needed. So I think that, like, tank off GCDs, hopefully, well, in my opinion, hopefully they increase the number of off GCDs on Warrior and Paladin and reduce the number of off GCDs on Dark Knight, and somehow kind of meet in the middle. Because I do think that you want off GCDs, because if you don't have off GCDs, the job can become stale. You know, it can become, like, you know, too slow or whatever.
You
But
guys don't
I do
hear
think,
my daughter in the background, just to make sure, right?
no.
Okay, because people keep saying baby stuff, and then like
Oh,
I keep,
really?
yeah, I know my daughter was.
Oh no, Xeno just sounds
Are they
like
just-
a baby. Man, they're so fucking lucky. I can't time this idiot.
Don't you have mod in my chat?
Oh, I can. Yo, get fucked, idiot. Yo, see ya, rip, bozo.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you got it.
You've unleashed a monster.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh.
Yeah, all my
that's right.
mods are just biased streamers, so sorry guys.
I mean, I'll say that I generally agree with you on that, Xeno. Especially on Dark Knight, like Salt and Darkness is kind of dumb. It could make a lot more sense if the content was designed differently. Like, if we actually had more movement, more than one target. A lot of this stuff could be actually quite interesting. But when you have stuff like Shadowbringer and Carve and Spit and Salt and Darkness, they all feel very samey.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. I mean, Carve and Spit does have the trade-off with Abyssal Drain, but it doesn't heal enough to actually make it worth using on any sort of single target. Now,
Yeah.
if that was a heal plus a shield, maybe we'd be talking a little bit, but it's not. But then, the one thing I will say is that I do think stuff like Plunge and your like gap closers should have potency, because that is a trade-off as well, where sometimes you can hold your plunges outside of a burst window
to be used for utility's sake, for getting back to the boss sooner or to a certain location. But once again, fights aren't really designed to do that very often anymore, especially with their giant hitboxes. If they were smaller and we were running around the arena more, having multiple targets to jump between, yeah, that plays a role that can be quite interesting and fun to work with.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, it's just not there.
If that situation was more applicable, like in more situations, right, then I would be okay with gap closes having potency. But as it is now, you just literally spam it when it's like you spam it in the burst. That's all you do all the time. Spam it in the burst. There's maybe one fight, that you save it for one single part. It just shouldn't have potency in my opinion. Like it's the situation doesn't come up often enough to like warrant that.
Mm-hmm.
Like in this entire raid tier, the only time that you have to do it is in P5. That's it. And it's one time in P5. Other than that, you never do that situation. So in all of the fights, so in 5 fights, because I'm counting that fucking door boss, okay? Fuck that door boss. I had to go gunbreaker for that fucking door boss. Fuck him. In 5 fights, you do it once. One time in 5 fights. That's just not... Nah, it's just... I don't know, man. It just doesn't warrant it.
You don't need it for Dog 2?
Huh?
Dog 2 and P8S, the door boss, when he jumps over to the side, right?
Well, no, because if it's dog first, you just jump off the edge.
Oh, okay, I got you. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Wait, if
yeah,
you use gap closer, on Dog 2.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, wait, Dog 1. If you use it on Dog 1, the game glitches out and it instantly kills you.
Yeah.
What?
Like because the boss is moving. And you're like moving with the plunge, it doesn't know where to put you, so it will sometimes put you in the stack with the players, and you'll just instantly like teleport somewhere and just die.
Yeah, it looks really weird because your camera like jerks to the back and then jerks in the middle, and it looks like your game is fucking up. Yeah, and you just get fucking destroyed.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Don't try it because you will wipe doing it. But
you can't invuln it either. So,
it doesn't matter. I play Sage now. I'm a healer main now.
Now I will say, I do think it would be interesting if gap closers all worked like Thunderclap, being able to jump between both enemies and party members. Because
that's what I like. That's what I like about Thunderclap is that you can target a party member. That's why I think it's awesome.
Like I see opportunities with that could be really interesting. Like even if they even made it like a staple of the game where they have like mechanics or something where one member wants to pre-position on one side of the room and then everybody just jumps to them.
Yeah, I think you remember in Omega with Hello World, right? How the healer would rescue the tank? Well, I think that'd be fucking sick if the tank could just thunderclap to the fucking healer.
That would be.
Like I think in situations like basically with the direction the game is going, it's just it doesn't make sense that they have potency on them. Like just make them thunderclap. Like it would be different if like okay, so take like Titan for example, like the first phase of Titan. Dude, that's like my favorite fight in this fucking game, man. I love that fight so much. Having to optimize your gap closers in that fight is fucking insane. If there were more fights like that, then I think it would be worth it. But that's like the only fight. That's like the only fight, man. And that's why it's not even a lot of potency either. It's not even a lot of potency. So
200 or like 150. It's one of the two.
I don't know. I feel like you get it out of like burst. It's that single off GCD is not going to change anything, especially if it doesn't crit, because this whole game is crit heavy. So I just feel like that they could take that potency and just put it somewhere else. So they just take the potency and put it somewhere else.
Easy.
Like if this game had more fights where like Titan, where you had to gap close back and forth and all this, badass shit, then yeah, sure. But it's not. It's a fucking super huge hitbox that stands in the middle of the arena, and if for whatever reason it teleports, it'll always go back to the middle.
So, I guess Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying at that point, it's like button bloat.
Mm-hmm.
It's like not needed.
So I guess one of my questions about all this too, and we were talking about making the game good for the general players playing it, getting people in, letting them do content and everything, and then we have like the stuff where we want it to be a little bit more difficult. Do we feel like maybe the players, that as long as the jobs are good for doing normal, maybe that should be the level that like they're like, okay, if they could do normal, we're okay. And then in Savage, we can actually try to make it a little bit more difficult, right? And so they can start making these smaller hitboxes. They can start making these game design changes in Savage and not have to really tone stuff down just to make sure everybody can do it, because you don't need it anymore. That's the point of Savage, right? Savage was the whole point of that, was to make it to where it was a challenge for players, and we didn't have to make things simpler for different players. So I don't know. I feel like right now, if you want really crazy difficult content, you have Ultimate, and Savage is difficult for a little bit until you figure it out, and then most players it's just clockwork, right?
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, I think they need to not make things easier on every single angle. If they're going to make the jobs easier, then leave the hitboxes, normal size. Make the boss to where you have to move it. Or alternatively, they make the jobs harder, but then make the hitbox bigger. But they're making it easier on both sides or on all different angles.
Mm-hmm.
So I disagree with that. So I think that they should do one, but not both. Because Savage is supposed to be like, nowadays, and pretty much since
they should make
Stormblood?
Creator.
yeah,
It
jobs.
should be, yeah. Around like Creator.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when it started. Was that type of difficulty? Because Creator was easier than Midas. It was around that perfect type difficulty, and that type of difficulty is perfect for like mid-core. They need to keep that, but that was also back when the rotations were harder.
Mm-hmm.
But like now, the rotations are easier, and moving the boss is easier, and the boss hitbox is bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a mistake. I mean, they're going to do whatever the fuck they want, obviously, but I think that they should just pick one and not.
That's true. I mean, I would venture to say, do make the jobs. I don't know. You don't even really need to make it easier if you make because in the end, if people fuck up and they don't hit the right rotation, they can still kill it because there's no DPS check. What does it matter how complicated you make the job if they just execute all the mechanics in the fight and they keep pressing their one button and eventually they clear it? But when we talk about making, I don't know, I'm on the fence with that. I am. I was thinking originally just make the jobs a little bit easier, make the fights harder, because you have to take the job everywhere, right? You don't have to take the fight everywhere, but you have to take the job everywhere. But at the same time, if they don't execute the job properly, it doesn't matter. They can still make it more difficult, and easier players can get through easier. Never mind. I'm all over in my head right now.
Well, so
making jobs fun. I kind of agree with that. Making jobs fun is probably really important. And optimizing them make that fun as well, and then more players would do that, right?
Yeah. I mean, well, there's like little stuff too that they can do. That there's little stuff like for Warrior. I think it was dumb when they removed the crit increase on how much gauge you had. That's just
I missed that
that's
so
dumb.
much.
I really enjoyed that min max. I liked storing my gauge so that I could have a higher chance of crit, just little stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That I wish that was still in the game.
That extra that decision making between having 90 and 100 gauge, giving you that tiny bit of crit juice, and then you do a heavy swing and it crits, and then you do the fell cleave and it crits, and it always felt good.
Oh yeah, dude, that was fun. But now it's okay, I got 40, or I got 50. Fuck it, just fell cleave, whatever.
Press the button.
Yeah, just whatever.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Or, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, talking about the current state of things and talking about maybe what the future would look like if we wanted to make it if there's let's not think that we're making the game for, 5-year-olds that just want to press one button. Like, this is attack button. This is the defense button. Like, every time a tank buster comes up, I press one button. Every time I need attack, I press another button. Let's not go down that direction. But if we wanted to if we wanted to fix some of the major gripes that maybe you guys would have, wanting like more difficult jobs and everything else, but still not go too far away from making people not want to play them because they're not fun to play, what are the key things they would need to fix about tanking right now?
Well, I mean, I think Stormblood was like the perfect balance, honestly. Like, I think that was, I think Stormblood was the best expansion, like combat wise. Like, I think it was super good. The raids were awesome. The jobs were really good. Well, unless I'm misremembering. Hold on, let me think about it.
Well, I mean, if you look at
the jobs were really good.
Yeah.
But like, I guess like Band-Aid fixes: 1, smaller hitboxes; 2, stop having the boss go to the middle; 3, make the bosses make it to where you have to move the bosses.
This is all boss design right now. I will say that the one thing that
but it has to do with tanking though. But this does have to do with tanking.
No, you're
your
right.
kit is the way your kit works kind of influences like the way fights can be designed as well. Like, you can make a fight that is very fun and interesting, but if none of the kits work for it, it just means that a class can become like unviable for it. And that's something we do, like, I know SE wants to avoid, and anyone who's lived through like Heaven's Ward knows that the player base generally wants to as well. And that's probably where a lot of these problems have stemmed from.
Which is
why
the Paladin changes happened, right?
Yeah, because also, I mean, you played Paladin in Heaven's Ward.
That's never escaping me. Literally,
I know,
everyone
and
brings that up.
Because you were griefing for an entire 2 years. I'm sorry, there was no reason to play that class. It was
fights where Paladin was actually good.
like 2.
Yeah, but they were there, And I was with a casual group. There's no griefing, right?
It's still you're still griefing because that's just how bad it was. But it's like when we want
remember
more
when
interesting
Paladin's
things.
cooldown was Stone Skin? You remember that shit?
Oh yeah.
Actually, I do want that back though.
You casted Stone Skin on yourself. Oh, you know what, most people
Bring
don't
it back.
realize that Bulwark used to be a 3-minute cooldown, couldn't block magic, and only 60% block chance. Look how far we've come.
They
finally made it 100.
Yeah. Oh,
and they also
man.
said Paladin will never block magic.
Yep.
You know how everything in this game is magic? You used to not be able to block that.
So I have learned that they will say something, and in 2 years, that theory is going to change.
You can't trust them.
I don't know if it's about trust.
You can't trust them.
It's that they're able to change their mind, right?
They changed their mind after watching one of my videos.
Oh, okay. All right. Shit. Man.
But no.
I don't.
Hey, man, all I'm going to say is this, okay?
Mhm.
All right? Okay, look, man, I'm just going to say it. All right? Who went to the Shadowbringer Media Tour?
Oh, my God.
Me. How balanced were tanks in Shadowbringers? Who didn't go to the media tour for Endwalker? How fucked are they? Yep, that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say, man. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Same
So you're
media
going to the
tour
next
tape.
one?
Dude, I want to go to the next one, man.
Yeah, dude.
I want to go to the next one.
Yeah, they're fun to go to,
Now,
man.
what I went to was so fun, man. It was in such a nice area too. Like the area wasn't nice, but the building that was in was really cool. It was like this old building.
Yeah, it had a really
It
good
was
feel to it.
Awesome. Yeah, it was super chill, man. I got to meet Yoshi. I was starstruck, dude. I was starstruck. He told me that the devs and shit watched my stream, dude. I almost cried. I almost broke down right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I got to have my interview with him, oh my god, I was starstruck.
Yeah, they read. He was telling me that they read MogTalk Digest sometimes, like especially with the World Race stuff and everything else, and how they like. Yeah, that's Sindalf. Yeah. Because I think he's also given me shit from what Sindalf has said.
And then blame someone else
Yeah,
for
he
it. That
blames
wasn't
someone
me.
else. It's so great. But yeah, no. So it
I
is
apologize.
weird. Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if you saw that one.
No, he might not. But yeah, there are times, and it's weird. And like when he talks about the world race stuff, and he talks about like how, like he said that like not too long ago. I think after all the crazy stuff happened with DSR, right? But he did say he was like happy that the world race scene exists within Final Fantasy 14. He's proud of that, and like that hit me because I'm pretty heavy involved with this stuff, at least enough to where I feel like I have a minor effect, right? At least the world race would always exist, even if I wasn't here or not. I'm 100% sure of that, but I'm here, and so it is interesting because you don't think you're being seen by Big Papa, but he's there and he's watching. He might not see all
there.
of it, but he's there, man.
I'm sure he's so ashamed of me.
I'm sure he's very ashamed of you. But yeah, no, the tour, doing all these events and working with these guys, it's great. And you know, a lot of shit could be said about decisions and game design and everything else, but we're saying it because we want to say it, and it's not because we hate the people who make this game.
No, that's one. No, man, that's one like big thing. That's one big thing that it's a big misconception about me is like, man, I get a lot of YouTube comments and shit. They're like, man, this guy, he's always shitting on this game. He hates it. I love this game. This game is my favorite game. This game changed my life. If I had one game to always play, it would definitely be this one. Like, there's no question about it. Like, this game is so important to me, and that is exactly why that I'm so passionate about it, right? Like, that's because I want it to be perfect. I want it to be perfect. I mean, it's never gonna be perfect, but people mistake criticism for you hating something, and I feel like that. That's just wrong, because you can have like criticisms of something that you love and still love it. You know what I mean?
Well, people, yeah, that happens all the time, and also people confuse like colorful criticism with like, yeah, they think it has to be like formal, like written out, and like all this great shit. No, we're fucking just talking, dude.
Yeah. I'm just blunt about shit, man, because I don't like all that shit. I don't like all that fluffy bullshit, man. I'm not trying to win people over. I'm trying to get to the fucking point. You know, I don't want to suck your dick and cuddle. I want to get to the fucking point. I want to get to the problem so we can fix it. You know, we can do that shit after the problem's fixed. I'll do that as a present for you fixing my issues. You know, that comes later. First, fix my fucking issues. You know, like, here's an issue. Why the fuck doesn't inner release give you Storm's Eye? That is fucking stupid. The move is called inner release. Like, it's an explosion of rage, and you're fucking telling me that it doesn't give Storm's Eye? That's so fucking dumb.
We just talked about making classes more complicated.
But that's not making more that's making
it simpler.
That's just an error. That's just them not realizing that it doesn't already do it.
Doesn't need to.
No, it definitely needs to. Have you ever done P8 phase 2 on Warrior? You know how awful it feels? Nah, you know what? Nah, okay. Nah, here. The next time you're doing P8 phase 2 on Dark Knight, you're not allowed to hit Edge of Shadow for 3 GCDs. Then you'll know. So the next time you do P8, exactly.
Even though that's probably actually the more optimal thing to do, from what I hear. But I will not do that.
No. You want to hit Edge of Shadow? No, what the fuck? You want to?
Now, a lot of people say press it a little later because then party buffs are actually up, because you won't actually gain an extra usage. But I don't subscribe to that propaganda. I press it immediately.
Oh. Okay.
All right, send off.
Yeah. So anyway, inner release should give you Storm's Eye.
Okay.
Just like Edge of Shadow gives you Dark Side. Man, the majority of people don't even fucking know what Dark Side is. They don't even know. They just know they have to hit Edge of Shadow to use their Shadowbringer.
I got to keep that bar up above 0. If it goes to 0, I die on the inside. But
Go.
yeah, circling back just a little bit to like the discussion that we are having on like what do we need to see like change and everything, especially within like some of the design. I mostly agree with everything Xeno said about moving the boss around, things like that, having more responsibility. I would actually like to see a little more on the tank damage side. That is more medium level damage, especially for like untelegraphed busters.
Oh yeah, those are the best.
Like that used to be a thing back in ARR and in Heaven's Ward, and then they got rid of them completely. And I do to some degree understand that maybe they don't want it because if you either have a bad memory or you've never seen something before, you can feel completely blindsided that you just got hit with a buster. That's why I say that it should be like medium level damage at best. But it should add more gameplay factors to stuff like TBN, intervention / Sheltron, Flash, Bloodwetting. Like those abilities, I feel like you should have to think about a little more. You should have to make good use of it.
Yeah, like right now it's like all or nothing,
effective.
Right?
Yeah, the last time I remember some of those being like super useful was probably T. Like BJCC in the middle of T. All your reactive
they hit really
abilities,
hard, man.
It was beautiful having to actually use cooldowns on not tank busters again, and actually having to think about that and use those like skills from back in the day, and just actually focus on mitigating autos and raid-wide AoEs that are hitting you for personal damage, because that was doing your job instead of just holding everything to the last minute. It was making things easier for your healers and your party, and it was also movement and running around the room. I like that. That is an amazing part of like tanking, but we don't do that anymore, partly because they've simplified things so much. I would like to see a little more return to that.
If they ever do Unreal Turn 5, it is going to be a dark day for all tanks. Because all tanks... Huh?
They have to move 2 feet?
Well, no. Because they're going to get hit with a plummet on top of a death sentence, on top of a crit auto attack, all at the same time. And they're going to get absolutely fucking deleted. Well, actually, I don't know. Maybe not, because tanks have like 9 million cooldowns. So I don't know. Maybe. But that's a lot of damage, though. Twin Tanya hit really hard. Like if she crit you she would like do death sentence and then weave in an auto attack, and it could crit into a plummet. Dude, that was a shit ton of damage.
Well, that back then, I think that was really weird game design. Well, because everything had like their own timings within the game. Yeah. So like you had your auto attack timer, you could have a plummet timer, and then there's the rotation based off of HP % and when you push.
Are we really going back to T5?
Hey man, Twin Tanya hit hard as fuck, man.
Well,
I remember you would just instantly die. You'd go from 100 to 0. Just instantly die sometimes.
I think it's interesting to look at, Frosty, from like, you can look at some of these old fights, especially Turn 9 Savage.
It took 2 months to clear that fight, didn't it? Or something like that?
Twin Tanya? Well, that was for other reasons. That was for twisters.
Yeah, it was like
acting strange.
Yeah.
And then they also took down the instance for 5 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
But like, take a bunch of like even players who were good into like min eye level, or maybe with some gear off tier 5. Turn 9 Savage, for example. Because that fight has so many untelegraphed busters, so many other things. One of the things you'll see is it'll take tanks, especially those who have started in Shadowbringers, a couple pulls before they realize, I might have to actually put Rampart on the opener because the boss is about to mini buster me 2 GCDs in, and then right before the buster. Because that's something players haven't had to think about. It's a very simple thing, but players haven't had to think about that for years. And and if you were running with a weaker kit like the level 50 kit, there's nothing you yourself can do about it other than that. If you're running at a level 90 kit, the only thing you can really, I mean, there are things you can do, like TBN and Oblation and any of your reactives, but you're going to then have to start pacing them out because you might realize I might only be able to get one of them in if I don't press it immediately. And then you have to start having like a mini timeline in your head. And you have to start thinking about things that you have never had to think about in the past.
Well,
and it
Yeah,
just
Tangy
it like
was a lot
changes. It changes things.
Yeah, it was a lot more interesting back then. Because on top of all that, you also had to move the bosses. So back in the day, tanks had a lot more responsibility. It's like now tanks are just like DPS with just like, you know, easier rotate, like slightly easier rotations. Like you don't really move the boss anymore. You just pop all your fucking cooldowns all at the same time. It's like,
I would venture to
No.
say tanks are like the easiest job in the game.
I mean, that's why I play.
I
it.
agree with that.
Yeah,
I say
that's
that
why
to
I play.
everybody, and the thing is, I say that to my group. I'm like, tanking is the easiest role. Anybody can play it. And then half the people say they disagree. And I'm just like, I don't understand how you're disagreeing with this take.
They have the
rota-
spotlight when you're in a raid. That's the thing. Like they're moving,
Yeah,
they're
like-
doing some movement, right? They're starting the boss fight. They're having to hit buttons so they don't die, right? If you're a DPS, you're just like, how do I do a whole bunch of damage? Half DPS don't even like press mitigation.
It is because people recognize when you make mistakes. Because you're a front and center, everybody knows when you fuck up. Like, it's very apparent when a tank messes up, but the mechanics you have to do are more limited. Your priority systems are usually easier because of the way they represent, like, melee and ranged or tank healer groups. Tanks typically have a much easier job in that. You can get hit by AoEs in a savage fight and not die, whereas anybody of other class will. And your rotation is simple in comparison. So if you mess something up, it's not a big deal. But overall, it's just like, because of all those factors, I do think that tanks are definitely the easiest. I put healers at the hardest, at least from a prog perspective, and then DPS in the middle.
You know, I think healers after prog would be a little bit easier once all that stuff gets figured out. It's more mapping out the mitigations and what needs to happen and how you can keep people alive and what people need to do to keep themselves alive, because you don't have seen, you know, that's like a group experience though, right? I don't know.
People, especially within a quick tier, do not always think about the healers and the tanks and what they have to do. So when you're progging a fight and you're on healer in the middle of prog, you're not only learning what buttons you have to press to maximize your damage while not killing everybody, because everyone's going to know when you mess that up. The whole raid's dead. But also, like, you're doing maybe 2 phases at a time and trying to figure out your healing, and that's just pain while raising other people. Tanks have something similar, and one issue is, like, let's say you're 2-3 phases into a phase, you don't know until you're like 2 to 4 minutes later after a buster what your cooldowns are going to look like, because you have to readjust your timeline to handle what new information you have. But you don't want to die, because that's nothing more frustrating than doing a 15-minute fight and dying 10 minutes in because you had to change a cooldown and you miscalculated it. The whole group's going to hate you for it.
Yeah.
That is a sort of like skill that you have to be able to adjust that stuff in the middle of like a learning situation. But overall, it's still, I don't think it's that difficult.
Healing
usually.
is
Just play Dark Knight then.
Yeah, tanking. Healing and Party Finder becomes when it is a little bit more difficult, because you're literally you're in a different situation every single fight. You have no clue who's going to use mitigation. You have no clue if your healer is going to do anything at all. And you have to constantly try to keep people alive. So doing like Party Finder healing is probably the most difficult role. But I think in a static, things get a little bit more consistent. It's a little bit easier. But
I have had a tank once in Party Finder. It was Dark Knight. There's a tank buster coming, and it's like, oh, they're going to Living Dead this, right? And they would take the damage, then they would Living Dead. And when people ask them about this, they're like, "Oh, I usually LD after the Buster." And sometimes I think back on that, and I'm like, do they understand what they're supposed to do? Do they know what LD does? I don't I don't understand what the thought process here is. And unfortunately, as a healer, you just kind of have to adjust. Healers adjust are a thing, and I hate it because it should be tanks adjust. The world should revolve around tanks adjust, not healers adjust.
Okay. Oh man, do you remember when tank stances reduced the damage that you took?
Yes, and I loved it.
Made
I like
Prog
that.
scenario. It made Prog a lot better, I feel. Trying
Yeah.
to squeeze out damage versus, like, because you had this balance, right? You wanted to be tanky, but at the same time, I mean, outside of Prague, it was just you'd left it off a majority of the time, but in Prague, it made it a lot more interesting.
I think that it's fun. That change has fundamentally changed some of the game design.
Yeah.
Because like Xeno said, you had a trade-off. Do you want to be more defensive, or do you want to be more offensive? And like you'll go into like tank stance whenever you want to make things easier for your party or for your healers.
Man.
And then outside of that, you go into DPS stance.
I feel like I can remember the tank show we had where we were talking about this upcoming change and the effects that it would have. And now I'm saying, remember when? Something that we had a conversation about years ago. I was like, holy fuck, man. Old.
I know that this might be not the most popular take, but I think tanking has been now harder ever since they changed that.
What?
Because of the amount of how rigid your rotation has to be. Because in the past, like when you started to look at your like DPS check, you had 2 ceilings and 2 floors. One based off tank stance, one based off DPS stance. And SE's not going to balance a fight for full-time DPS stance. They don't do that. So instead, they have to put it somewhere in between. And it's like, this is where they expect you to be. And by being a good tank and being more in DPS stance more often, you could find a way to get above what SE expected the DPS check to be, whereas DPS were probably already doing the damage they expected. Same things with healers, they could influence it. Now, because tanks only have one stance that only affects enmity and not actual damage, they know what you're supposed to do and they balance for that. That's why I feel like we see a lot more situations of people reaching in rage and the boss is like just about to kill them. We see a lot more of that where, personally for myself, until this last tier, I have never fought an enrage once in this game. I've never actually had to fight it and try to pass it. Ever since then, like I've had getting closer and closer to that feeling, just because I feel like this tank chance change is it's a contributing factor. It's not the whole factor, obviously.
No, I think it's contributing. The same thing with cleric stance, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But now we're going real far back.
Well, last tier was tough. Okay. So, I mean, I thought Shiva was harder than last tier. You just had to play meta this tier. You didn't have to play meta on Shiva, but you had to play meta this tier because they supposedly fucked up. But I don't think that they fucked up because I think that Paladin and Warrior were just really undertuned. I think that if you played meta, okay, so when we played meta, when I swapped, we had a damage down, and I know we had 1 damage down, and I think we had a death toward the end, and we still fucking beat it. But when I was on Warrior, we wiped a 0.1% like 3 times. But because of that change, so I think that this particular tier, 2 tanks were just fucking undertuned. But like in Shiva, when the group I was in cleared Shiva, I was on Warrior, which wasn't like DPS meta, and we didn't have Ruby weapons, and we still cleared. So I actually think that that this tier was just fucked. It was just fucked. Like they didn't know, like the tanks this tier were just severely unbalanced. Because if you played meta, it felt right, I guess, if you played meta.
So
Oh, absolutely. My group we took triple ranged, and
Ooh. Yeah.
because we weren't really thinking about, a lot of us weren't really thinking about the changes they've made over the years to hitboxes, design, and all that stuff, and we just went with the standard triple range comp that we have done for so long, and we really were punished for it this time around. Like, we were fighting to a point where we have a run with no deaths, and I held like 2 GCDs and snakes to play safe. We hit Enrage.
Nope.
We hit a 49%, and we see Enrage because the game decided to hate us.
Yeah, double melee was really, really strong.
So
if we took double
really
melee,
strong.
we would have killed it day 2 easy. Like, that would have been like a very easy decision. But we had to go to bed day 2 without a clear, and it felt really awful. And part of that was solely because of that choice.
yeah.
Not entirely, but it was a very huge contributing factor.
Yeah. I mean, and with this question, Sindalf, you don't have to give away strategies or anything. But going into Ultimate, what are we looking at for most optimal tank setup going into Ultimate?
Well, Warrior's pretty much already off the table, because I don't think Warrior has enough damage and defensives to be viable most cases.
Mm-hmm.
So Dark Knight's pretty much a auto lock, just because, you know, high damage, easy to play, TBN's busted, just generally all around good pick. So for me, the debate is, what is the other tank going to play? Are they going to play Gunbreaker, or are they going to play Paladin? And I haven't really looked too much as of late into the Paladin numbers, because I want to do some of our own research. Because it looks like Paladin is... Yeah. Well, there's also the question of, do you think SE is going to make a change on the day of? Like, they're going to give it a tiny boost. They might. And how much will that boost actually bring to the table? Because to me, the thought process usually is, Gunbreaker will do more damage, but Paladin has better utility. So it is usually easier to play. Now, anyway, it is easier to play. And just has better party mint. So if we reach a point where Paladin's damage starts creeping up on Dark Knight and Gunbreaker, then you just take that jump and say, I'm going to take Paladin. The Paladin will bring better party mint for the whole group. We'll get through damage, heal checks faster. We'll get through party mitigation checks faster. Tank stuff should not really be a problem. But we also have to factor in a little bit that I have to ask my co-tank, like, how much does he expect to lose from taking Gunbreaker as well? So it's up in the air at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But it is, I mean, he's practicing both at the moment.
Do you think there's a chance they're not going to do maintenance for Ultimate?
No, they absolutely will.
You think so?
I don't think the files are in the game yet.
Yeah, they're not there from what I hear.
Okay.
I heard that too.
and then I also have read on Twitter that they are in the files. Ooh, who knows?
Oh well.
You never know.
Well,
Twitter doesn't lie.
I don't know.
No.
Yeah. Xeno, do you kind of agree with the tank take?
I think the Dark Knight is definitely BIS right now. I think it does too much damage. Its rotation is too flexible. And also you can pool your resources. So like Dark Knight is unique in the fact that a lot of its damage comes from like off GCDs and being able to pool like your mana. So like Gunbreaker, you can have bad kill times and you're fucked for the next phase, because if you don't get all your cartridges, then you're absolutely fucked. But Dark Knight, that doesn't really happen to, because Dark Knight doesn't have any fucking stupid cartridges. The same thing with Warrior and the same thing with Paladin. I will say though that okay, well, I'm a Warrior simp, so I'm probably going to play Warrior. I'm like 99% sure. But home gang is amazing in Ultimates. Like if you look at DSR, you can home gang 5 times. That is fucking absurd. That is absurd.
That shouldn't be allowed.
Huh?
That shouldn't be allowed. It feels like actual
Oh.
cheating.
No,
It's too good.
It's too good. It's too good. It's too good. So, Warrior's damage now is better than it was before from not only the crit direct hit change, but also it got like potency buffs and stuff. So Warrior blasts in raid buffs. I mean, it doesn't look, man. Look, it doesn't do as much as Gunbreaker or Dark Knight, okay? But they're on the whole other level. But Ultimate has never been about damage. It's never been about DPS checks. All you have to do is live, and you will win. So I find value in Warrior's home gang in defensive wise. I'm either going to play Warrior or Dark Knight. I'm not sure what Craig is playing. I think he's either going to play Dark Knight or Paladin. I'm not going to play Gunbreaker. I'm not going to fuck with cartridges in a fucking Ultimate. No, thank you. I'm okay with that. I mean, I will if I absolutely have to. I just don't. I just cannot possibly fathom a scenario where I have to. But I said the same thing about this current raid tier, and there I was, gun mode, baby. So I might have to, but I'll deal with that later. I have no problem transitioning into Gunbreaker. It's fine. But I'm gonna start on Warrior, and I'm gonna see how many times I can home gang. I'm gonna try to beat 5.
Okay.
Yeah, unless you're basically racing or trying to like do some sort of world prog thing, or you have certain considerations, honestly, just play whatever you want. That's the biggest thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think comfort matters. Like, I don't know if my group is racing or not. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess if you go with server up, you're racing. I guess if you go
You
with
are,
server up,
Xeno.
you're racing.
You're racing.
Technically,
I guess.
You may not be racing, but you are a part of it.
Yeah, you're running in the same field with the other people, and we're trying to see if you get there before even if you're not trying to get there before the other people, we're gonna be watching to see if you do.
I'm just trying to stream it because, well.
So that being said, you know, before we got a couple other things we're gonna talk about. So we're on Ultimate. I'm gonna make everybody watch this 1-minute video that I put out for the World Race stuff. Because Darian Hart and Amy put a lot of work into this, and I want to put as many eyes as I can on it. It's involving the World Race event that we're doing on this channel. So I'm going to make you guys all watch it. I'm going to mute us real quick. Hold on 1 second, guys. All right, I'm unmuting. All right. We're talking about super secret stuff, guys. So it was an intentional mute. Anyways. Thank you guys for watching all that.
Good.
Yeah, dude, that was good.
Slick.
Yeah.
Slick.
This is the first time that we can actually give any kind of like sponsor stuff away. And it's going to go to the first streamed, world first stream that we're restreaming. And
So
that's
what
just...
if we turn? So
No,
what if we turn the stream on?
no. No, you can't
Last
turn it
second?
on last second and be like, "Hey guys, we streamed." No, that ain't that. Unfortunately, can't do that. It's
The boss is like 1%. Just hit start stream.
yeah. We would, honestly, I would, because I do like everyone who's not streaming in the world race. I still like 100%. That's perfectly fine, great, and everything. And I think that's actually still good for the ones they're going really hardcore in the racing side of it. But that doesn't help a sponsor at all. So I do have to kind of put that focus on the first one, that the stream clear. So if you change your
Makes
mind,
sense.
if they change their mind, I'm more than happy to do it. But yeah, it has to be kind of throughout their prog streaming. There may be some level of variation, like if they don't stream the first like phase or something, then they start streaming and restream. Maybe we'll work something out, but like it can't be like last second or just showing an HP bar the entire time or something like that. So I don't know. Oh yeah, I'll have the form set up for everybody next, like coming into next week. I have a lot of posts coming up next week, and so we're excited for your group's name, Sindalf.
We haven't come up with one.
Okay.
Dude, just call it no eyebrows, and everybody in the group just shave their eyebrows up, man.
I told the group they can keep coming up with names, and if they don't, I'm gonna come up with something probably really cringe and really stupid.
I believe it.
So we have a couple ideas on the table, but they're like, I think No Thoughts Remaining was very good. That was a very good name.
That's really good.
But half the group's like, no, we don't want to do this because eventually people don't know what NTR means.
Yeah.
And then they figured out what it means, and they're just like, oh, I don't want this name anymore. But NTR is great.
Anyways, Ultimate.
Don't Google that.
Yeah, Ultimate's coming up, guys. We're all excited for it. And I don't know if they're going to make any last minute changes to tanks. I think they're just going to be what they are now, man. I mean, maybe they will. I mean, do you think they're in a position to where they need to make any changes? Is there any
I do.
Yeah.
I think Warrior needs a little bit more damage. I think Paladin needs more damage.
Do you think they should do a potency buff to like both of them, just like a little bit, like just random abilities, throw some extra potency on there?
Well, no, I think so this game's all about burst and putting your shit in burst, and for some reason, man, then when they buffed, like one of the, maybe not the last time, but the previous time, they buffed Warrior's like combo finisher. I don't know why the fuck they did that. Just fucking buff the burst, man.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, but I think Paladin needs a buff. Yeah, I think Paladin needs a damage buff. Well, so far anyway. I don't know. Maybe I suck at Paladin. Maybe I'm doing the rotation wrong. But I'm doing like fucking, I don't know, 5%, 7% less damage on Paladin than I am like the other tanks.
Mm-hmm.
Like Warrior DPS is like good, but it needs more. Like its RDPS is okay. It just needs more in its burst for ADPS. Because for some reason everyone is like worried about like RDPS when that's like you need for tanks, you need to worry about ADPS because it's how much you put into the raid buffs. Like man, I made a video about this. Go watch my fucking video.
Go watch the videos, guys.
Yeah,
Just
go watch my
the
fucking
videos.
video.
So,
But yeah, anyway, that's what I think. I think Paladin needs to deal a little more damage, and Warrior needs a little more damage. Not a lot. Look, man, I know I know every patch. Okay, every patch I've said Warrior needs buffs, but it has needed buffs every patch. I'm not just saying it just to say it. Look, man, look at the numbers, dude. I'm not making this shit up. It's like almost there. It doesn't need to do as much as a Gunbreaker or a Dark Knight, just a little bit more in the burst.
I mean, I agree. Although I think some of the reasons why the Paladin and Warrior do less is because they're more 1-minute classes in the way that they operate. They're based off of like 60-second timers, not 2-minute timers.
Mm-hmm.
SE has mentioned at one point in, I believe, one of their notes for a reason for adjusting a class is they wanted to adjust, like, I guess the discrepancy of some of the classes, whether they're in burst or not. I forget exactly the reason. It had something to do with either a Dragoon or a Reaper at one point. You know what I'm talking about, Xeno? It was on
Yeah,
that,
no,
like,
it was
justification page.
Reaper. I'm pretty sure. I think it was Reaper when they mentioned that. I like vaguely remember what the fuck you're talking about, but I can't remember. I think it was before Reaper, like
Yeah.
before the Reaper buffs. I think.
So this does have some merit when it comes to thinking about what tanks you want to take, because you look at a fight like DS. I like using DSR as an example because pretty much everybody will say Dark Knight does more damage than Paladin. If given like your standard, you're using 2 minutes at like the end of Nidhogg situation, then you go into something like Eyes phase. Paladin destroys that phase compared to other tanks and compared to Dark Knight specifically. You take a Dark Knight and you can go look online like some of the top parses for Dark Knight or just like the faster kills, and you see people who they know what they're doing. And they are the lowest on the DPS list. Like both the healers are beating the Dark Knight, but this is supposed to be the strongest, like one of the strongest tanks. It's because everything is within their burst window. So depending on how phases turn out in fights like Ultimates, this does offer situations where maybe you don't want to all in on just the burst window. Because another class could come in and they could smooth out some of those and raise your damage in certain phases, like Eyes phase. Now, the counter argument to this, though, is that you take a class like Dark Knight or something, and they can shift all of their stuff around if they needed to, which is one of the benefits of some of the bursty classes that the others don't really have as much.
Yeah, you can pull your resources. Also, like, you're always going to have those 1 minutes on warriors. So the fact that they buffed their combo finisher, I mean, yeah, sure, it was good, but it would just be better to buff the burst, because you're always going to have that burst during each phase. Like, there's never going to be a phase that's just like 45 seconds. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's always going to be, you're always going to be able to get like your fight or flight or your IR. But that's why I think Dark Knight is so good, is because you can pool extra resources and do less damage at the end of, like, let's say Nidhogg, and you'll have like full mana going into Eyes. You can even save one of your like Shadowbringers or whatever if you know you're not going to need it for Nidhogg. So there's like a lot of stuff that you can do, and that kind of stuff is what I think makes Dark Knight really, really awesome. Because like the other tanks kind of can't do that. I mean, I guess you can on like maybe Warrior with Infuriate. You can save one of those, but I mean, that's just like one skill, I guess.
Yeah, like some of the tanks like Dark Knight being able to shift things around is definitely part of what allows their like pooling ability to do such high numbers in different phases. Like being able to shift damage between phases is something I actually really enjoy about some of the current class design. As much as people don't like it, that is something I do like. But there were classes like Old Paladin that if you could make it work on some of those phase shifts, they could burst their damage pretty hard in certain sections like Eyes, especially because it was a double dot phase. Like they would excel at that. But this is just kind of like you have to think about it, and it's like, well, which one is probably going to be more useful? And unfortunately, it's usually just the class that bursts more is going to be more useful, especially because the first phases, you'll get enough practice in them that you'll be able to like just breeze through them. But when you make it to that final phase, you want to blow that boss up. You want to make sure that the like first or second time you see Enrage, it's over. You don't want to have to fight that, because everyone's already going to be fatigued after a prog that's going to lead to the end of a 20-minute fight. Like, that boss needs to die.
So
yeah, I remember before I cleared the DSR, man, I would like go into the next phase. Like I would calculate, man, I'd go into the next phase with, I would try to time my Storm's Eye to where it would go from P6 to P7, have just enough time, use a Fell Cleave, basically have full gauge when I go in there. You know what I mean? Like full gauge, Storm's Eye, just as much damage as possible. Just so every single like ounce of potency was there on P7, because P6's DPS check was so fucking easy, man. you know, you didn't need it. Like you didn't need. I mean, well, I guess if you had a death, typically you would die. But if you had, but like let's say you did have a death and you didn't die, it was normally okay because the DPS check was so non-existent on P6.
Okay. Well, we've been going at this for like 2 hours already, by the way, guys. We're probably getting close to a good point to kind of wrap up the talk. I mean, we talked about a lot of shit. I had a lot of fun with it. I don't know if you guys did or not.
Next show, gearing show.
Yeah, gearing show. We got it. That's a great February show. After all stuff comes in. Huh?
I'm gonna make a suggestion for your gearing show.
Sure.
Go play Final Fantasy 11.
Alrighty.
If you want to know about like horizontal progression on crack.
Yeah.
That game has some of the best gearing in any MMO, but the whole game is designed around that existing, and you can start getting into these situations where you think about, okay, 14's very vertical heavy, the other MMO SE made is horizontal heavy. If you were to try to apply one system to the other, it just doesn't make, like, the whole game would have to change how it's made.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I like the gear talks, but I think they, I don't think they make a lot of sense sometimes. I don't think CSE ever making a change to it, because it's going to affect their bottom line as well and how much money they make.
You
They
think
just
so?
throw darts at a dartboard, and that's how they come up with their gear stats.
That I might actually, I do kind of believe. Sometimes
They just
it doesn't make a lot
whatever.
of sense.
They're just like, they have like a dartboard for like physical, you know, and a dartboard for like, you know, magic, and they just okay, this piece is getting the, you know, skill, speed, tenacity. The piece is getting debt, you know, direct hit. Yeah, whatever. Fuck, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Xeno, what would it take for you to go full tenacity melds, Prague?
If they would reduce, like I don't like the crit RNG. I think crits are way too powerful.
Yeah, but like you know it's worse damage. But what would it take? What does like chat have to do to make you go full
So it would take either
tenacity?
it would take like massive overhaul and tank damage. Like you would have to be getting absolutely destroyed every
No,
hit. Like
you're misunderstanding me. What does
I
chat
am.
have to do to make you go full tenacity?
Oh wait, what does Chad have to do?
Yeah,
Oh fuck.
it's all clearable. I went full tenacity for Sigma. I'm surprised
Yeah,
we
but-
cleared that tier, but
Yeah, but are you proud of that?
yes. Yes, I am. We're in full tenacity.
know. Yeah, I don't know, man.
I want to do it again one day, to be quite honest.
full
Like,
tenacity.
just think about the damage mitigation.
I mean, like, if they did really hard-hitting autos, would it make sense?
yeah.
It would have to definitely equate to either faster progression due to healers and tanks finishing stuff quicker, or healers gaining GCD somehow. Because a lot of
Yeah.
people don't realize that if a healer gains a GCD from something like anything that you do that they wouldn't have had otherwise, either like they gained it due to being more optimal in the rotation, or they just gained it because they're more comfortable. That's a way bigger gain than pretty much anything else you can do, because they just hit the boss with like a 300 potency ability. And that's better than any party synergy you can come up with.
Yeah, it just tenacity doesn't really fit in the game, man, because, you know, like we were talking about earlier, it's either the boss is like tickling your, you know, well, tickling you, or you're popping all your cooldowns. So, you know, okay, you take, I don't know, 10k from an auto attack versus 9k. Does it ever really matter?
You know,
no, not really.
I wanted to ask this. I forgot to ask it earlier. What do you guys think about the tank busters all having like dots on them and everything? Do you feel like that's even remotely like interesting, or you're just like, oh, okay?
I mean, me personally, I think it's the same shit, because you just literally pop all your cooldowns. So what is the difference between the thing having a bleed and the thing not having a bleed? I mean, you're still just going to pop all your cooldowns, right? The only difference is the healer has to work like a little harder, I guess, for the dot. I guess.
I wish there was something we could do about it. Like after the fact. Like I don't really feel like tanks can do anything. Like, yeah, the healers have to work a little harder. Tanks may want to put a little bit more mitt on something so the healer doesn't have to do more. But
I mean,
I would like something to be able to heal myself more often, more so than just my regular rotation. Unless my regular rotation was more impactful on the healing side. Just something to help the healers out and just make it feel better.
Just use
But-
TBN, man. It's a heal.
I
Or
mean,
so I've been told.
yeah, I do TBN the dot.
No.
The dot plus auto attack, that is a great TBN moment. But
Ugh.
but that's only Dark Knight that can do
Mhm.
that.
All right. Well, what other things? Is there anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap up the show for tanks? Any major topics we completely skipped and didn't mention?
Probably a lot of stuff, but
I mean, we could go for like another 20 hours or so. I'm sure. Yeah. Bring back
I
the
just
old
want to
school.
say that I personally like Paladin a little bit better. I do have some issues with it, but I think it fits the game better.
Okay.
I like it a lot more now. Basically, I think where the Paladin rework, or however you want to call it, where it shines the most, I think, is defensively, not offensively. It is cool that it's more bursty. Don't get me wrong, it is cool. It fits the meta more, but I'm glad that they changed like Sheltron. They added Bulwark again. They changed Veil. I think that is like some of the best shit.
Okay. Sindalf?
give us our dots back. I don't need both the dots, guy. Don't need both, although that's not a bad idea, but give us at least one of them back. Dots are good. They're not as bad as SE seems to think they are. They're fun. They're interesting. Please give us our dots back.
Man, they were moving dots like they were moving tank balance.
You know, did you guys think they were going to do a lot more with Paladin, by the way, or did they do exactly as much as you thought they were going to do?
They did almost to some degree what I thought they were going to do, because I remember sitting down thinking about what they're going to do, and I'm like, Goring Blade just causes a bunch of issues. I'm like, they're probably going to turn it into Sonic Break and just have it do a bunch of damage, or
Yeah.
a dot. And
Just Gunbreaker, you know?
that's exactly what they did. And I hate it when I'm right about certain things like this, because I sometimes have like a doomer mentality with it, or I realize that what I'm thinking isn't going to be well received by a lot of people, but it's a very simple solution. And then it just feels like SE is catering to me in some ways for like my dumb brain, and that's just not how they should be making the game. It feels that way some days.
Okay. Xeno, did they do pretty much what you thought they were going to do?
Yeah, I mean, more or less. I thought they were going to focus most on the burst, and try to like SE. Typically, SE likes to be lazy about this type of shit. Well, maybe lazy isn't the right word, but I don't know. Fuck it, I don't have a better word for it. But I was hoping they would do a lot more, but this is pretty much what I expected, I guess.
They didn't allocate the resources. They allocated as much resources and brain power into it as you thought they would, and they're allocating that stuff over to other places, right?
Yeah, like PvP.
Hey,
They
man.
keep making all these. The PvP fucking balance changes are insane. There's like 9 fucking pages, man, and the PvE is like 1.
It's Paladin.
This is a PvE game. PvP sucks ass in this game.
Fuck, man. We're
It's
going
better than it's better than it's been in the past.
No, it's a lot better. It's a lot better. than
It's
been.
really
Yeah, no,
good
it's-
where it's at right now, except for the rank side. The rank needs to be fixed. But outside that,
I heard the rank was scuffed, brother. I
It-
heard the
it-
rank
I
was
mean,
bad.
they have a lot they need to do to get like it actually competitive. It's fun. I mean, that's it. I mean, they did a good job making
I had
it
a lot
like
of fun with
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like for the first month and a half, I had a lot of fun with it when they changed it.
I got a lot of problems with the targeting in it, but they have some classes that I think work very well with that. So as long as I'm doing casual games, it's like It's still
Casual's
pretty
fun.
enjoyable.
Yeah, I like casual.
I'm
Yeah.
terrible at it though.
Yeah, I just wish they actually put, because there is a dedicated community behind it, and there's people who would be like really hardcore into ranked and everything if they tried to make it work, and fixed a lot of stuff with the, rewards with it, get proper moderation and everything else. But anyway, this is a PvP show. So that all being said, I guess we could go ahead and start wrapping up, and you guys can say where people can find you, and all that great stuff. I need to find your YouTube channel. Maybe I should put that on there too. Xeno, tell everybody where they can find you, and any shout-outs you want to do.
My Twitch channel, Xenosys Vex. My YouTube channels, Xenosys Vex. Also, Xenosys Vex VODs and Xenosys Vex Clips. Definitely like, sub to all those channels. I think I was. Oh yeah, I want to give a shout out to Twitch chat. Because they help me every day. Every day they help me try to find who the fuck it is that I'm talking to. So I want to give a shout out to them, and I want to say that today in particular we got a cute chat. I feel like that chat needs some kissies. So there you go. And thanks Frosty for having me on the show.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
By the way, just in case you're wondering why chat's reacting, I started your YouTube channel. It played the autoplay of the video you have on the front page, which is you just doing the cute ear thing and ringing a bell for like half a second, so everybody got to hear that burst in their ear. But anyways, keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I stream like 5-6 days a week. I'm going to be streaming Ultimate Prog. I'm not sure exactly how long we're going. I don't know if we're racing, but I guess if we're going a server up, we are racing. It's going to be between 12 and like 16 hours, somewhere in there. I don't exactly know, but it's going to be hardcore Prog, and it'll be when server goes up.
Okay.
And we're planning for 2 weeks. I mean, hopefully we kill it the first week, but I mean, it's always the goal. Hopefully we kill it the first week, but plan is 2 weeks.
Okay. Sindalf.
Yeah. Can meet me. You can find me at like my Twitch page or my Twitter if like you also like anime titty. Find that there too. Honestly, shout out to my group. We haven't picked a name yet, but everybody in there, we're going to be racing. And my stream Discord for putting up with the fact that I only stream maybe like once a week at the moment. Probably sometime tomorrow in the afternoon. Hope to do more in the future once like prog and like work has calmed down. But yeah, thanks very much, Frosty, for putting up with me. Since I know I'm not the most articulate person.
Nah, man, it's great to have you on. I'm always happy to bring you on. Even if it's, you say some stuff and I'm like, I'm too stupid to know if you're wrong or not, but I have other people to tell you if you're wrong or not, so that helps me out a lot.
I'm usually wrong in a lot of cases, but I'm also right because it's all opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And you just need to know I have the correct opinion.
Oh, okay.
And that other people are wrong.
Gotcha. Well, I put all the links over in Twitch chat. I'll put them in the YouTube channel on the about at the bottom and all that great stuff. Follow these guys, sub to them, do all the stuff over to them as well. Make sure you do all that. And if you're already subbed and you're already good, sub to this fucking channel. Go ahead and hit all your Twitch primes, all that great stuff. I'm going to put all that towards the thousands of dollars I put into production for the show that we're doing next week. So all that will be funneled over into the World Race. You got merch too. You can buy MogTalk stuff. You can buy mugs and stuff. So do that. And then hopefully we'll have a good event next week. The week after next week, I guess. We're getting really close though. It's real close now.
Getting there.
Getting spooky, man. But I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. And thanks, Sindalf. I appreciate that, dude.
I just learned how that button works.
That's a nice one.
Last time I pressed it, I gave it to the wrong person.
Nice. But that all being said, this has been fun. You guys are always a blast to have on here. I love having you two on here. And we'll get a gearing show go next. No, after we're done with Ultimate and we've had some time to breathe and everything, we can start thinking about that and doing that. Because after Ultimate, we have one Savageless expansion, and that's raid content, basically for the rest of the expansion. Outside
Hear me out.
Sure.
Criterion Dungeon. Stream that.
I
Get
did.
Get a mini stream going that will last like 8 hours. That just has like a few people on.
I mean, that's what I did
Test
for
the
the last
waters.
one. I did it, and it was okay. But I mean, it's usually over before a lot of people are awake or off work. So it doesn't work out that
downside.
Yeah, that's the big downside to it. It's just at that edge to where maybe it's worth it. I put a very small one person show on last time. It was okay. It was comfy. But that all being said, we're gonna go to wrap up in the stream. We'll do a raid to somebody. Neither one of you guys are gonna stream after this, right?
Nah.
I got raid.
Okay, cool. I'll find somebody here in just a bit. So hang out, guys. We're going to do the credits here. And again, you are all fantastic. Thanks for the support the community has given us and all that great stuff. And yeah, all right. I'm going to say bye now. Bye, guys. You got to wave and all that great stuff too. Bye.
Pretend I'm waiting.
Say bye. You have to at least say bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.